Okay, so I'm just going to do 2 exam style questions. I'm going to do one that's calculator and then a separate one that is non-calculator. And as always, in the description of the videos, there's always a link to some questions that you can do for some additional practice as well, exam style and just sort of textbook style too. So it says here for question 1, the size of many file types is measured in megabytes. And 1 megabyte, which is written 1 MB, is equal to 8 times 10 to the power of 6 bits. My iPhone camera roll has 108,000 photos, and the total space taken up by the photos is 2.1 times 10 to the 12 bits. What is the average size of one photo in megabytes, MB, to 2 decimal places? So I think the first thing that I'm going to try and do is I'm going to see that I've got this space being taken up by this many photos. So I'm going to try and find out the amount of space per photo. So I'm going to do the space per photo, and I'm going to do that in bits. There's a difference between bits and megabytes. The space per photo in bits is going to be the total amount of space, which is 2.1 times 10 to the 12, divided by 108,000. Now it does say you can use a calculator, so I'm going to go straight in and do 2.1 times 10 to the 12, and I can either do it division or I could just use the division symbol. I'm going to divide it by 108,000. Now there's quite a lot of numbers here, so I'm going to write down some of these. I'm going to do some rounding in just a second. So that is 19 followed by 6 fours. So that is 19 followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fours. Now if you wanted to use scientific mode in your calculator, you could also have that as well. So that's the space per photo in bits. Now we need to find out how many bits this is, how many megabytes this is. So to go from the number of bits to the number of megabytes, we need to divide by how many bits there are per megabyte. So that's going to be 19444444 divided by 8 times 10 to the 6. So again, it's a calculator, so I've got that answer stored in my calculator. I'm just going to press answer divided by 8 times 10 to the power of 6. And we get the answer 2.430555, and it just wants it to 2 decimal places. So to 2 decimal places, it will be 2.43 megabytes. And that kind of feels like a reasonable size for a photo. You can look on your iPhone or your Android phone, and you can see how much one photo takes up, and it usually is about this amount of space. Okay, so here's a non-calculator style question. It says, given that the speed of light is approximately 3 times 10 to the power of 8 meters per second, and that the distance from London to San Francisco, which is in California, is approximately 8,400 kilometers, calculate the time it would take for a photon of light to travel from London to San Francisco. Give your answer in seconds and standard form to 1 decimal place. Okay, so we need to be very careful here because the units of this is meters per second, whereas the unit of this is kilometers. So I think the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to look at the distance, which they've said is 8,400 kilometers, and I think we're going to convert that to meters, and you convert from kilometers to meters by multiplying by 1,000. So that's 8,400. I'm going to times it by 1,000 by adding on those 3 zeros. It's 8.4 times 10 to the 6. This is 8.4 times 10 to the power of 6 in standard form. And the speed of light, it says, is 3 times 10 to the power of 8. This is meters, and then it says s minus 1. S minus 1 just means meters per second, okay? Now we're trying to find out the time, and if you think about the distance, speed, time, most people usually think of the triangle where it has distance, speed, and time, like this. If you're trying to find the time, you do the distance, and you divide that by the speed. So because it's non-calculator, I'm going to go in standard form. So I'm going to do 8.4 times 10 to the 6, and I'm going to divide that by the speed, which is 3 times 10 to the power of 8. Now, if you remember from this calculations from before, we need to do the 8.4 divided by 3. Well, instead, I'm going to do 84 divided by 3, and that will help me work out what 8.4 is divided by 3. So I'll do 84 divided by 3. 3 goes into 8 twice, with 2 left over, and 3 goes into 24 8 times. So 84 divided by 3 is 28. So 8.4 divided by 3 is 2.8. So that's why we've got this thing to 1 decimal place. So we get 2.8. Then all we need to do is work out the powers. So you're going to take 10 to the power of 6 divided by 10 to the power of 8. You're going to subtract the powers, and 6 take away 8 is minus 2. So it is 2.8 times 10 to the power of minus 2 seconds. Now it does say to give your answer in seconds and in standard form, so I will leave it like that. But just getting out of standard form for a second, this is 0.028 seconds for a photon of light to travel all the way from London to San Francisco. It is very, very, very quick how fast light travels, but it isn't instantaneous. It's still going to take a bit of time for that to travel. And although I'm talking about a photon of light, you can also think about how, I don't know, things like electricity or like messages being sent between those two places. It can't go faster than 0.028 seconds because the speed of light is the fastest thing that we're going to have for this. Okay, so that is everything you need to know on standard form. Check out the questions in the description as well, and well done for getting to the end of the playlist. Found this video helpful? Then why not drop it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. This is the end of the playlist, but head to my channel's homepage to see what else I might be able to help you with. And as always, wishing you the very best for all your studies.